As the Money Burns is an original podcast by Nikki Woodard. Based on historical research, this is a deep exploration into what happened to a set of actual heirs and heiresses to some of America's most famous fortunes when the Great Depression hits. Each episode has 3 primary sections. Section 1 is a narrative story. Section 2 goes deeper into the historical facts. Section 3 focuses on contemporary, emotional, and personal connections. Story recap. Debutantes Barbara Hutton and Doris Duke joined the 1931 Winter Society activities in Palm Beach, where heirs Jimmy Cromwell and Phil Plant mingle. As one romance blooms, society mavens hope to arrange another. Now back to As the Money Burns. Believe it or not. Many are talented and can do some pretty amazing things, but there is one trick that only a very few can do. Believe it or not. Section 1, Story. The 1931 winter in Palm Beach season comes with plenty of fashion, both touches of ermine and sophistication with white and occasional polka-dotted sporty and playful outfits to flitter about. Charity events also fill the schedule. While most hotspots can be in the realm of female dominions like in Newport with endless rounds of teas, luncheons, balls, and dances, Palm Beach has moments of raw masculinity and power on display. Activities might include yachts, polo, and as well as pugilism. Only a week earlier, former footballer Frank Dolan had made 2 special catches this season, a 7-foot 8-inch sailfish, and not a day or 2 later, a society burglar. The Palm Beach and Miami police had their hands full with recovering stolen jewels from multiple recent break-ins in the area, all just in time for today, Saturday, February 28, 1931. When an ongoing 21-year-old society baseball game is held as a fundraiser for the Palm Beach Police Pension. The 2 teams are divided by the primary home locations, New York and Philadelphia, of Palm Beach's Winter Society residents. Mr. Fuller initiated the strife decades ago, worried that the colony's sissies were too addicted to teas and dancing. Every year, Fuller pages for he-men willing to abandon backgammon and ping pong in hopes of gathering 18 men to play a man's game of baseball. At the baseball field of the Poinciana Hotel, 2 motley crews roll themselves in wheelchairs out onto the field. An ambulance awaits on the street in case any injuries due to sudden realizations of previously unknown muscles occur. The New York City recruits dress smartly in police uniforms, while the Philadelphia set have more eclectic and colorful uniforms as Knights of the Street. Last year they dressed as convicts, and this year as hobos and tramps. Refreshments include elite staples like caviar and coconut cake. Nearly 1,500 gather to watch the day's activity. It's a place to see and be seen. As the game begins, recent birthday boy, 83-year-old Ed Stotesbury, walks out to the pitcher's mound and throws the first pitch, igniting the game. Dangerous playboy millionaire Phil Plant plays second baseman for the New York Coppers. As a batter, he hits far and wide, scoring 2 doubles and with them nabbing the home plate. Heir to 2 fortunes and Stotesbury's stepson, Jimmy Cromwell, covers right field and tries to gain the Philadelphia Hobos with 2 doubles at the bat. His former brother-in-law and auto heir, Horace Dodge Jr., pitches for Philly. Missing from the scene is polo star, the impoverished former royal Russian prince Alexis Mdivani, who has returned to Paris for business before his spring wedding in Newport. He leaves behind his ever-popular fiancée, former It Girl debutante Louise Van Allen, who still makes the papers for her smart fashion ensembles. They did a quick tour for their engagement announcement before separating again. Louise attends all the right events and parties, often crossing paths with teen heiresses and now debutantes in their own rights, tall and awkward Doris Duke and chubby budding fashionista Barbara Hutton. Barbara dreads every time she is reminded of the pending marriage, but today she can focus on the handsome and dashing Phil Plant, her actual beau at the moment. Yes, Barbara has her very own budding romance. The game has several dramatics beyond the uniforms, large swan dives into home plate, and good fielding exhibitions in several plays. On hand, the ladies take up collections for the Police Retirement Fund. Assisting in the efforts, the popular Titian redheaded Elizabeth Betty Kent, who some might remember from her Buckingham Palace bow with Doris Duke and ongoing date of Louise's brother, Sam Van Allen. And teen heiress Barbara Hutton, along with her relatives and heiresses themselves, Aunt Marjorie Merriweather Post Hutton, and cousin Sophia Hutton. Today's collection adds up to $1,000, fairly short from the previous year's $4,000. Could things be getting tighter financially for the spectators and participants? Barbara can't help but to blush every time Phil throws her a glance. He's taking great strides to clean up his bad boy reputation for the idealistic and romantic Barbara. Today she is free from her father Franklin Hutton's disapproving eyes, while under the supervision of Aunt Marjorie. Final game score? Coppers beat Hobos 7-1. A few days earlier, on Wednesday, February 25th, the 6th annual Kiwanis Club has its fundraiser to help provide medical and dental services for children. The evening has a boxing fight demonstration between the Italian powerhouse Primo Carnera versus young Stribling, after which Masters of Ceremonies, Broadway star Phil Baker hosts the festivities. This is one of several boxing exhibitions in which Primo participates before his March 5th Madison Square Garden fight against Jim Maloney. For the children's fundraiser and society events with Plant nearby, Barbara is within proximity of Aunt Jessie Woolworth Donahue and Uncle James Donahue, a sweet, gentler man with a slight effeminate and dandyish manner. Barbara will also participate as a dancer for an even different charity event. More costume balls and dances fill the schedule as the winter season had a late start and will have a late end. The Everglades, Colony Club, Embassy Club, and the Orange Grove host plenty of events until then. At sea, yachting activities include Radio Magnet and Betty's father, Atwater Kent, hosting a Saturday, March 1st luncheon for the popular guest, Walter Damrush. The game and these other activities all make the newspapers, but there is another feat that makes it into Ripley's regular syndicated column on March 4th and 5th. A seemingly simple parlor trick. A deck of cards is inspected, cut, and shuffled, then slid across a table. A slick-backed haired stockbroker picks up the deck and flips it in his hands. He flashes a $1 million smile. With ease in his bare hands, he tears the deck in half. He takes one half, then calmly rips it again. He pushes up his sleeve as his wrist flicks his watch. He takes the 1/4, then with a firm grip, twists until the deck splits into eights. The man featured is William May Wright, a.k.a. Bill, as in Supreme Hostess and opera singer Cobina Wright's husband. Bill notes he has succeeded at this trick since the very first time he tried it. He owes it not to strength, but powers of concentration and focus. Now, if he could only use that focus and concentration to rebuild his lost fortune. His biggest trick is hiding his misfortune with such diversions. Then again, that latter trick might be the biggest game being played in Palm Beach this winter season. Section 2, History and Historiography. In some ways, 1931 is like every other year, but there's a little hints of bigger changes in the outside world. In preparation for most episodes, I do a heavy dive into period papers, sussing out little facts and details. Sometimes I chuckle over the items and references. A few times now, I've run across the term He-Man during this era. Ah, yes, the ever-present battle and need to appear manly and even insulting. In due course, I ran across the original syndication of the Ripley's column, which began on December 19, 1918 as Champs and Chumps, noting sports feats, then expanded to all sorts of unusual facts, changing the name to Believe It or Not by October 1919. The column would reach peak popularity in May 1932. On April 14, 1930, Ripley on radio would broadcast 15 to 30-minute episodes on NBC, CBS, and the Mutual Broadcasting System. Sponsors would include Pall Mall Cigarettes and General Foods. Yes, the company founded and ran by Marjorie Merriweather Post and her then-husband, E.F. Hutton. From 1930 to 1932, 24 Ripley short films were also produced. In 1948, the radio show would be converted to television. Please check the Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook accounts of As the Money Burns for the 1931 cartoon with William May Wright. As mentioned previously in episode 30, Spring Blossoms, Palm Beach, Florida has a different atmosphere than the other elite hotspots. One factor involves more of the manly pursuits, displays, and sports. In the prior year, 1930, several activities featured boxing as the current rage. E.F. Hutton set up his own stable of sponsored athletes with accommodations and training facilities. This would be another one of his semi-charity pursuits in what he saw as helping more disadvantaged young men get a chance to develop and use a talent to elevate their lives. In the end, E.F. would only take a small percentage of any wins to reimburse costs. The heir to two fortunes, Jimmy Cromwell, and his stepfather and Philadelphia's biggest taxpayer, Ed Stotesbury, are prominent in the Palm Beach sports scene. In one big 1930 charity event, Jimmy faced off against light heavyweight champion, the Phantom of Philly, Tommy Loughran. Loughran delayed the start of the fight until Jimmy removed the horseshoe obviously tied on the outside of his glove. Jimmy was outmatched by a few inches and several pounds. Tommy clocked Jimmy pretty hard within the first round, then held back so that the rounds might last longer. A collegiate and Navy amateur boxer, Jimmy landed a few punches and showed off his swift right hooks, before being declared the winner at the end of the second round. Jimmy did graciously note he wouldn't have lasted if a few heavier punches had landed. Sports journalists attribute the friendly game to the presence of Jimmy's mother, Eva Stotesbury, in the audience, and the fact it was for a charity and not a title fight. Former heavyweight champion Jack Dempsey had already retired from boxing. His reign lasted from 1919 to 1926, retiring in 1927. However, he is still frequently mentioned in the press as his successors compete to replace his long-reigning dominance. The Italian Primo Carnera, also called the Ambling Out, migrated to the U.S. in 1930 and started making his rounds. He would reign as the heavyweight champion from 1933 to 1934. His February 1933 fight won against Ernie Schaff, who later died from injuries compounded from ones previously inflicted by Max Baer, the father of Max Baer Jr., Jethro, in the Beverly Hillbillies. Primo would defend his title against Tommy Loughran, only to lose it later to Max Baer. While boxing is definitely a manly sport, there are several other masculine-affirming events that occurred in the 1931 winter season. On January 10, 1931, C.A. Mott was traveling to Miami air races when his small airplane faced an oil line engine problem and crashed into the ocean near Anna Dodge Dillman's estate, Playa Rente. Her son, Jimmy Cromwell's former brother-in-law, and Philly Hobo's pitcher, Horace Dodge Jr., aided in the rescue with two golf course employees. The men made it to the plane, pulled out Mott, and later salvaged the craft when it landed on the beach a few yards away. Mott escaped uninjured. Other news-making events involved several burglaries and high society thefts. In January 1931, burglars ransacked Albert Einstein's home in Kaputh, Germany, but fortunately his precious manuscripts were not taken as they are safely kept in Berlin. At the time, Einstein and his wife are visiting Pasadena, California. Winter 1931 saw a rash of society burglaries hitting the East Coast from Newport, Rhode Island, down past Palm Beach and Miami, Florida. On February 18th, former footballer and recent sailfish fisherman Frank Dolan, his wife, daughter, and daughter's fiancé are having dinner when they hear a noise upstairs. When Dolan checks, he catches the burglar in mid-progress ransacking the bedroom. The burglar slams the door on Dolan's face, then holds the door with his foot. But not about to give up and using brute force, Dolan burst in. The burglar throws a stool, then a chair as Dolan ducks and advances. The burglar dives for the open window, but Dolan catches the burglar by his foot and pulls him back in. They wrestle out onto the balcony where Dolan and his future son-in-law sit on the burglar until Chief Weston and the police arrive. Dolan has captured John Todd, a 56-year-old career burglar who already had 3 prison stints and has hit multiple homes with possibly 7 in the Miami and Palm Beach areas alone. Todd follows newspapers to track the society accounts and whereabouts to plan his crimes. Seeing the recent engagement announcement, Todd targets Dolan's home. Police find at Todd's apartment $10,000 worth of stolen goods and handbags, luggage, jewelry, and other reported missing articles. In cooperation, Todd takes police to several locations around Miami to retrieve jewelry and money he stashed in several palm trees, including 3 strings of pearls, jade beads, and 3 gold hairpins, amounting to about $2,000. Of course, Todd isn't the only society burglar. In Miami, suspect Lauren Shannon is detained in relation to $50,000 worth of jewels taken in a holdup of a diamond salesman in Chicago the previous December. 4 pawn tickets tie Shannon to items including 2 diamond rings, a platinum bracelet, and a stick pin. A week after both thieves' February arrest, a separate set of 3 robberies occur in Seabreeze Avenue homes. Over $10,000 is stolen and the screen of one downstairs window is cut, while the occupants had been out participating at the first wedding anniversary birthday reception for the newly married George Lamaze of the Lamaze Patio Restaurant fame featured in episode 51, Millionaire. It is also the new Mrs. Lamaze's birthday. For a quick relevant note for inflation, $2,000 in 1931 is roughly $34,000 today. $10,000 is $185,000, and $50,000 would be $925,000. On July 4th in Newport, Rhode Island, a man dressed as a butler is arrested trying to break into a Greek minister's summer rental. The burglar gave the name Jack Evans, but it is later to be determined to be none other than John Todd, who is out on a $2,500 bail and awaiting trial from the earlier robberies in Miami. Todd is also wanted for burglaries in New York and Massachusetts. In September, Todd receives 3-year sentence in Rhode Island, then is sent back to Florida to face multiple burglary charges with proposed victims including the Palm Beach summer homes of Philadelphia's Vincent Scullin, Broadway talent Sam Harris, and radio magnate and Betty's father, Atwater Kent. Later in September 1931, another Society phantom burglar will strike the home of Elisha Walker in Long Island and get away with $45,000 worth of gems, including a $30,000 matched pearl necklace, 2 diamond pins, a diamond ring, and a diamond bracelet. Crime waves and robberies increase as the Great Depression builds, but there are others who prefer a more luxurious and less prosecutable methods. Plenty of hearts will be stolen and broken on the way to bigger fortunes. Section 3. Contemporary and personal relevance. Part of the fun in these stories is making seemingly trivial connections into the modern day and potentially larger significance. Seriously, I barely pick at something and out comes another connection. Maybe it's related to a building or an inspiration for a character in modern film or television. The little invisible threads of life that prove that we are all connected to each other one way or another. Already I've described the trail, co-beaner Wright to her husband Bill, to Ripley's Believe It or Not, on to General Foods and Marjorie Merriweather Post. Now let's have some more fun. The term He-Man was first used in 1758, meaning a strong, virile man, according to Merriam-Webster's dictionary. And the term He-Man was applied more commonly in 1832 in reference to U.S. pioneers as especially masculine fellows. In the 1930s, it is still a frequently used term. I remember first hearing it within the Our Gang short films, shot between 1922 and 1944, which became more popular with the incorporation of sound in 1929. The most iconic cast appear in 1936 to 1939, with the main characters Alfalfa and Spanky and the recurring element of the He-Man Woman Haters Club. This is unrelated except maybe in concept to the modern connection to another popular character. While the He-Man and the Masters of the Universe toy and 1980s animated series developed independently from the earlier references, it was still a long line of comic strip and comic book related storylines that would enter into pop culture. One popular character from the era of our story will have a long life and range through multiple incarnations over the years. The Buck Rogers character first appeared in August 1928 in the story Armageddon 2419 AD in the Amazing Stories collection, became his own comic strip, Buck Rogers in the 25th Century, in January 1929. Buck originally undergoes time travel via a cave, sort of like Rip Van Winkle, only to wake up far into the future by 492 years. The space elements are introduced in January 1930, sparking a whole other level of interest in the character, as well as predictions with technology. Buck Rogers was turned into serials for radio 1932 and film 1933 to 1934, with other adaptations for TV, film, and games up until the present day. Every couple of decades, a new take appears, and another one always seems to be in development. Buck Rogers would also inspire other works like Flash Gordon. Both characters display the hypermasculinity as depicted in whichever era of their reincarnations. Another inspiring take is the Warner Brothers Merry Melodies cartoons with Daffy Duck as Duck Dodgers. Since publishing the last episode 51, Millionaire, which details dangerous Broadway playboy Phil Plant's accident with former actress Helene Jesmer, a new connection has been revealed. I published on various social media outlets before and after photos of the actress who sued for the loss of her beauty and therefore livelihood. On the As the Money Burns Facebook page, one gentleman pointed out that Helen is likely the mother of actress Julie Newmar. As I've mentioned in Section 2 multiple times, my perpetual dilemma over the complications and issues related to the spelling of names. When I had tried to find a little more information in the last episode, I hit a quick dead end. Now with the mention of Julie Newmar, I quickly discovered an alternate spelling, though clearly similar. Both first and last names dropped an extra letter, and then I looked up Helen under that different spelling. The new spelling had the same information in a few news articles involving the automobile crash, but what it really did was expand the woman's timeline to her later life. Indeed, it is clear. Helen is the mother of the original Catwoman, Julie Newmar, who also rose to fame due to both her beauty and dancing skills. I would have loved to make the connection earlier, though I am more than thrilled about the audience engagement. How fun it is to announce the connection of the very first Catwoman from the original Batman and Robin 1960s TV series in a story still involving Phil Plant at a police fundraiser during a society burglar crime spree. By the way, Julie Newmar also played Zarina the War Witch in a 2-episode arc for the Space Odyssey 1979 to 1981 Buck Rogers TV series, with a title character portraying a 1980s manly man bringing his karate skills and football strategy into the future 5 centuries later. These stories I am telling are based on truth, and many will lead to the darker elements of human nature. However, we can still enjoy when they bring moments of brightness to our days. Please join me again in 2 more weeks, same bad time, same bad channel, wherever you consume this podcast. Next, when we return to As the Money Burns, an unlucky filmmaker's Viking voyage finds disaster at sea, while the luck of the Irish brings better news for a tennis star. Until then. As the Money Burns is an original podcast written, produced, and voiced by Nikki Woodard based on historical research. Archival music has been provided by Past Perfect Vintage Music. Check out their website at www.pastperfect.com. Please come visit us at As the Money Burns via GoodPods, Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. Transcripts, timeline, episode guide, and character bios are available at asthemoneyburns.com.